In a dimly lit room, the sound of metal hands clinking echoed like whispers. A boy sat on a bed, clutching his bleeding side, his face twisted with pain and fury, and through gritted teeth he swore revenge. He would kill every last one of them. Far away, in the Demon Lord's castle, swords clashed in a storm of steel. 6 heroes fought desperately against an endless tide of enemies. A female warrior shouted in frustration. The Demon Lord was right there in front of them, but the others were overwhelmed, shouting for a retreat. The main hero heard her voice and froze. Then something clicked. He called out to Aikido-sama. She answered firmly. They would hold back the guards. He needed to focus on the Demon Lord. He nodded, eyes full of determination, and charged straight ahead as the demon laughed at him. A deafening explosion ripped through the hall. The hero's sword blazed with power. He whispered an apology, steadied his grip, and drove his blade into the demon. The demon screamed, shocked at being defeated, and vanished into nothing. Breathing hard, the hero stood tall as his comrades rushed to him. The girl called his name. He stayed silent for a moment, then smiled faintly and declared that it was over. They had won. Peace would return to the world. A month later, in the holy capital, the 5th day of celebration was underway in a grand guest mansion. Aikido collapsed onto a sofa with a groan, exhausted from the endless festivities. Someone set a glass on the table. Looking up, he almost said her name before she introduced herself. Flora, the saint of the holy nation, the land of God. She teased him, saying she never imagined the hero who conquered Pale Peak in a week would be worn out by a party. Kyo grumbled that he hated formalities. Flora leaned over the back of the sofa, smiling, and told him after tomorrow's victory ceremony, he'd finally be free. He nodded, but laughter from the hallway drew their eyes as his comrades in. One called him Big Brother, urging him to cheer up. Aikido smiled warmly. We're the legendary heroes who saved the world, he reminded them. Juan Zilong of the martial nation laughed and admitted he hated ceremonies too. Doug from the Magic Nation thanked Aikido for his enormous effort. Shinamani Nagi of the Eastern Nation, Mwashashi, remarked on Aikido's incredible duel with the Demon Lord. Aikido shrugged off the praise, saying it wasn't just his strength, he couldn't have done it without them. When Garen Rudolph of the military empire arrived, Aikido welcomed him and asked why he hadn't thanked anyone. Garen replied they'd only followed orders. Aikido bowed his head and told them how grateful he was to have met them. Standing, he thanked them all sincerely. Smiles spread through the group. Later, the mood grew lighter. Flora helped steady a laughing, tipsy Aikido as one joked about his terrible alcohol tolerance. Shinamani teased him for drinking while enjoying the local brew. Aikido, still unsteady, told Flora not to worry about tomorrow. She answered confidently that she'd wake up on time. When Aikido suddenly asked what everyone would do after the ceremony, the room fell quiet. Garen said he'd go home to help his empire recover. Shinamani planned to retire to focus on research. Doug wanted to spread his martial arts across the continent. Flora and another would return to the church. When they asked about Aikido's plans, he hesitated. Unlike them, he was reincarnated. His parents were gone. He had nowhere to go. Finally, he said he'd just wander. On the day of the ceremony, inside a grand cathedral's waiting room, Aikido stared at the ornate clothes they'd put him in. He asked Flora why it was all so extravagant. She reminded him this was a moment symbolizing the unity of the 5 great nations and the peace he'd brought. He sighed and let her continue dressing him. When he asked how much the armor cost, she revealed it had been forged from national treasures worth an entire country's budget and warned him not to damage anything. Inside the cathedral, the crowd cheered and chanted for the holy envoy and messenger of God. Confused, Aikido asked Flora who they were talking about. She smiled and told him it was him. Shocked, he stared at her. She reassured him it was just for ceremony's sake and asked him to endure it for today. As they walked, Aikido spoke softly, saying he would say goodbye once everything was over. He called Flora's name, hesitated, then brought up their earlier talk about his future. He admitted he'd thought about it all night and decided he wanted to travel the world, helping people who still needed him, and he hoped she would come with him. Embarrassed, he asked if it sounded weird. Flora smiled and said it was a wonderful dream. Inside the cathedral, clerics from every corner of the world filled the hall. Aikido stared, amazed by the size and grandeur of the ceremony. Flora guided Aikido to the altar and told him to stay still. As he looked around at the intricate setup, unease crept into him. When Flora ordered the ritual to begin, The clerics crossed their fingers. The symbol on the floor began to glow, and chains shot out, wrapping around Aikido and pinning him to the ground. He cried out in shock. He couldn't move. He quickly realized it was a trap, fueled by enormous mana and powerful magical tools. Desperate, he called out to Flora, begging her to be careful and warn the others. But when he looked up, she was smirking. She stepped closer and, almost admiringly, called him terrifying, even while restrained. In pain, Aikido asked if this was some kind of joke. Doug arrived then, calling his name in disbelief. Aikido demanded answers. Doug replied calmly that this was fate. Flora confirmed it was over. Doug explained that Aikido had become too powerful, a threat to the balance of the world. One by one, Aikido's former comrades stepped out from behind the pillars, each offering their justification. Shimon warned that favoring one nation would destroy the balance. Garen said the 5 nations had made a pact. One of them said Aikido had to be eliminated. Staggered, Aikido asked how they could betray him after everything. Garen said it was duty. Shimon said power itself was evil. Flora sealed it with cold amusement. Aikido roared, breaking the chains with sheer power. Blood trickled from the clerics' faces as the magic strained. Doug shouted in disbelief as Aikido began overpowering the group's spell. Cleric screamed as his fury grew, but when struck from behind, slamming him into a pillar with explosive force. Doug scolded one for acting too soon, but noted Aikido was still alive. Groaning, Aikido opened his eyes dazed and asked why. More chains bound him. Doug lifted a small box and declared they would now transfer Aikido's 5 cheat skills into a ring. Flora doubted it could be done, but Doug assured her it would work. He revealed they had gathered treasures from all 5 nations to fuel the ritual. Doug activated the seal. Energy poured into Aikido, his body burning as if his nerves were tearing apart. He screamed as his sweat pooled and flowed toward the ring, completing the ritual. Doug raised the ring and confirmed their success. Flora asked what to do with Aikido now. Doug claimed he had returned to the heavens. Aikido, shaking and furious, screamed that he had fought for humanity only to be discarded and betrayed. He declared the 5 great nations his enemies. Someone mocked him as Doug ordered someone to finish him off. Shimon stepped forward with his sword, but Aikido, unable to move, began to laugh. Flora asked if the pain had driven him mad. Aikido replied that he still had one part of his body left working. Mana burst from within him, triggering an overload. Doug realized Aikido was about to self-destruct. Flora screamed for everyone to run. Using everything he had left, Aikido vowed to take them with him. The cathedral exploded. Soil and debris shot high into the sky. When the dust cleared, Garen stood wearing the ring. The others approached. Doug noticed the ring had already activated and marveled at its power. Flora praised their perfect success and tried to calm the tensions, but Garen called her a hypocrite. Shimon warned against threats. When suggested fighting to see who was strongest, Doug cut in, warning that a battle would spark a global war. Flora waved it off and knelt, praying for divine blessings on the future. The hero was gone. The explosion was framed as divine punishment, and the people believed the story. Everyone except the loyal followers Aikido had once saved. Far away, in a quiet wooden house, a girl carried 2 buckets, calling out that she was heading to fetcha. Her master warned her to be careful. By the river, as she filled the buckets, she muttered about the strange explosion the day before. Then she saw a body under the trees. She screamed for her master. Someone was out there. This was the start of Aikido's revenge. Aikido's mind spiraled in a flashback, hearing voices of betrayal. Too much power becomes evil. Everything was for the Empire, it was fate. He saw their faces, the comrades he had traveled and fought with, and could not understand why. He reached out a trembling hand toward Flora, shouting her name, pleading that this had to be a mistake, especially from her. He stammered that he had cared for her. Flora turned to him with a cold smirk. Aikido's heart sank as she said, "Poor Aikido-sama. You never realized we were using you until the very end." His eyes filled with tears. He swore he would never forgive them. They had taken everything. They had used him. He vowed again that the 5 nations were now his enemies. He promised revenge, no matter what it took. He screamed he would kill them all. He jolted awake, gasping. "What the hell? Where am I?" he muttered. He saw himself lying in a bed, alive. He tried to get up but couldn't move, his own voice sounding strange. "What the hell? Where am I?" he muttered. He saw himself lying in a bed, alive. He tried to get up but couldn't move, his own voice sounding strange. A girl peeked nervously through the door, cursed under her breath, then ran downstairs, shouting to her master that he was awake and in pain. The master called back that the painkillers had worn off. Together, they rushed into the room. The master held him down while ordering the girl to give him medicine. She pressed it to his lips. He forced it down, coughing violently, his mind racing. Where was he? Who were these people? When it was over, the master observed that he seemed to be calming down. Aikido drew in a deep breath, then snapped his eyes open and glared. Who are you? Where am I? How long have I been out? He demanded. The girl flinched and snapped. What kind of attitude is that? If we hadn't saved you, you'd be dead. You could at least tell us who you are. The master gently pulled her back and spoke calmly. Judging by Aikido's expensive clothes and accessories, he said, this man clearly had status. If he didn't want to talk, they wouldn't press him. They had found him washed up near the river, soaked in blood. This was his workshop. Aikido stared at them. They hadn't stolen anything. They'd saved him. Maybe they weren't criminals after all. The master introduced himself as Crest and the girl as his apprentice, saying she was the one who had actually saved Aikido. If anyone deserved thanks, it was her, not him. He added he wasn't looking for trouble and would prefer Aikido leave as soon as he could. Aikido looked away and muttered a quiet, thanks. Crest gave him a passing glance and said, fine, give me a contact, and I'll write a letter so someone can pick you up. When Aikido stayed silent, Crest frowned. What's wrong? You don't have anyone. Aikido hesitated, then asked if he could stay a little longer. He promised to repay them and leave once he could move again. The girl tilted her head, confused. Crest raised an eyebrow. Stay here? For how long? I'm not your nurse. Aikido frowned back. I'm not asking for 5-star treatment, he snapped. Crest was quiet for a beat, then said something that made Aikido blink. You really haven't noticed? The girl glanced at Crest. Maybe we should just tell him, she whispered. He's going to find out sooner or later. Should we wait until he's stronger? Aikido shouted. What are you two whispering about? Crest stepped closer. It's fine, he said. Even if he panics, I can handle it. He gripped the blanket. Tell me what's going on. Aikido yelled. Crest pulled the blanket back. Aikido stared. His breath caught in his throat. His arms and legs gone. Huh. His voice cracked. No, it's gone. My arms, my legs, they're gone. Crest's tone was grim. The damage was too severe. If we hadn't amputated, you'd be dead. Aikido's vision blurred. Why? Why did this happen to me? He screamed. Hold him down, Crest ordered. The girl struggled to restrain him as Aikido cried out, begging someone to tell him it wasn't real. His mind spun. Had the explosion blown his body apart? Why was anything left at all? A sick thought hit him. No, he whispered. Don't tell me, was it them? He looked at his missing arm and nausea overtook him. He vomited violently as the master and apprentice stood by in grim silence. Why? Aikido gasped, tears running down his face. Why am I the only one suffering like this? How am I supposed to get revenge now? His voice broke. Just kill me already. Crest grabbed him by the bandages and shouted, You idiot! After all the trouble we went through to save your life, don't throw it away. Shut up. Aikido yelled back. What do you know about my pain? Lose your arms and legs first, then preach to me. Don't look down on me from your high horse. Suddenly, the girl slapped him. Enough, she snapped at her master to calm down, then turned back to Aikido, gripping his face and forcing him to meet her eyes. You're still alive, she said fiercely. Don't give up. Hold on. Aikido trembled. Yeah, I'm alive, he muttered bitterly. But in this body, what kind of life am I supposed to have now? Crest folded his arms and spoke thoughtfully. This is a workshop, you know. Maybe it's not a coincidence you ended up here. Maybe it's fate. Aikido blinked, confused, then noticed Crest's mechanical leg. Crest explained. This was a Magitech limb workshop. He was a Magitech engineer. Aikido stared, murmuring, Magitech prosthetics. He remembered how, even before the Demon Lord's rise, countless wars had left soldiers broken. To send them back to battle, engineers had created steel prosthetics powered by mana, the birth of Magitech limbs. The girl added proudly, My master is one of the top experts. Crest scoffed and teased her for bragging. Aikido muttered that he'd heard rumors of prosthetics, but never imagined they could move like real limbs. A spark lit in his eyes. If he could get one, maybe he could stand again. Tell me, he asked urgently, if I had limbs like yours on all 4 points, could I move freely? The girl immediately shouted, No way. That's insane. Magitech limbs run on mana. and need incredible control to use. Even moving one is hard, for it will be almost impossible. Some people end up bedridden just from the energy drain. Crest also warned about the cost. 4 limbs would cost a fortune. We can't cover that. Aikido said he understood, then glanced at his accessories. Sell everything, he said flatly. They're worth a fortune, on par with national treasures. The girl's eyes widened. You're serious? I still have something I need to do. Aikido shouted, pouring all his emotion into his words. He looked down, his fists trembling. Crest and the girl exchanged stunned glances. Crest finally sighed. Fine, I get it. The girl snapped. Are you out of your mind? Crest sat down calmly. Iris, we saved him. That makes us part of this now, she argued. But he said quietly, if he's still willing to risk everything, it means something. Iris clenched her fists, conflicted. Fine, she growled. Even if you lose everything again, you're still willing to fight. I've made up my mind, Aikido said firmly. Iris threw up her hands. Fine, whatever. She scowled. But I'm helping with the surgery too. I found you. I'll take responsibility. Aikido managed a small smile. That sounds fair. The master opened the door, stopped for a moment, and said it was decided. He left the preparations to them, but warned it wouldn't be easy. Aikido met his gaze without flinching. I'm ready, he said. Iris called out, stopping him. Wait, we don't even know your name. We're helping you, and you still haven't told us who you are. Aikido gave an awkward smile. Sorry, my name's Aikido. She smiled faintly. Finally, a smile. Crest nodded. We'll do everything we can. Just trust us too. Aikido nodded and thanked them. And so, the surgery to attach Magitech limbs began. First they installed special plugs, forming a mana circuit so the limbs could be attached, removed, or repaired easily. Metal fittings had to be embedded into what was left of his arms and legs. No anesthesia. He endured it all, one limb at a time. They worked, lowering the risk of rejection. When the first stage ended, Crest inspected the new arm closely. Try moving it, he said. Aikido sat on the couch, listening carefully as Crest explained the training plan. Start with the right arm, then the right leg, then the left leg, then the left arm. After that, full body coordination. Aikido soon realized converting his whole body to Magitech wasn't as simple as he thought. How do I even move it? He asked. If you want to move a finger, Crest explained, push your mana into the matching pseudo-nerve. That's how the prosthetics work. Aikido closed his eyes. He could feel it, some strange link between himself and the limb. Crest told him to start small. Just move a finger, slowly. Don't push too much mana. Aikido focused, pictured the movement, and the entire arm shot backward, smashing into the wall and leaving a hole. I only tried to move a finger, he yelled in shock. Iris shouted as the arm clattered to the floor. Crest barked a warning. Too much mana like that can kill us all. I didn't mean to. Aikido stammered. It just moved on its own. Crest muttered under his breath. That much power, and it's just a training arm? Iris rushed over. Shut it down already. Crest stared hard at Aikido, his eyes narrowing. Who the hell is this guy? Aikido sat there, trembling, murmuring an apology. Iris crossed her arms and scolded him sharply. Do you even understand what go easy means? I'm sorry, he said again, genuinely. Crest ran a hand over his face, muttering. This is insane. No normal prosthetic could take that kind of mana output. Then he spoke aloud. Standard parts won't work for you. I'll have to make custom limbs. Aikido's eyes lit up with hope until Crest added, and you'll be paying extra, plus for the damage to the wall and the floor. Aikido groaned. Life with Magitech limbs was hell at first. Bedridden, he couldn't even eat by himself. Iris fed him with a spoon, but he barely reacted. When he finally took the tray himself, he insisted, You don't have to feed me. Just leave it. I'll eat. She snapped back. What kind of person treats someone like a dog? The worst part wasn't the training. It was the helplessness. He couldn't bathe, go to the bathroom, scratch an itch, nothing. It was a waking nightmare. And the phantom pain was even worse. At night, or when rain fell, it hit hardest. Pain burned through limbs that weren't even there, like glass underfoot, like lightning through bone. No medicine helped. He'd bite down on the blanket and scream, driven half mad. Yet even then, through clenched teeth, he swore he would never forgive them. He would kill them all, even if it was the last thing he did. Iris often stood outside his room, listening quietly, guilt gnawing at her for pushing the surgery so fast. Training continued. He practiced with fake hands, tried to write again. A year passed. He received his prosthetic legs. Standing with a stick, he stared at the floor. Iris watched as he tried to jump and collapsed. She rushed over, scolding him for walking alone. Balancing on prosthetic legs was brutally hard. "I'm sorry," he said. "I just want to adjust faster." She steadied him gently. "Why are you in such a rush?" He stayed silent. Meanwhile, Crest shoveled snow outside. Later, sitting with Aikido and Iris at a table, he was surprised to learn Iris was only 17. "What?" Aikido blurted out. "What? Are you saying I look old?" She shot back. No, that's not what I meant," he panicked. She told him she was an orphan, taken in by Crest. Living with others was still new to her. "I'm sorry for being such a burden," Aikido said. She brushed it off with a half-smile. "You're like a stray mutt we picked up." He blinked. "A mutt?" She admitted softly. "I don't know why, but lately I've been enjoying myself. Maybe because of you." Panicked, he asked, "Did I ruin the mood again?" She laughed. "That's such a cliché." Seasons passed. Crest kept working on Aikido's limbs. For years later, in a field, Iris called out, "Ready?" Aikido's voice came back from a distance. "Any time." She held a basket of eggs. "Dinner depends on how many you catch." "I got it," he said. She tossed the eggs into the air. In a blur, Aikido caught every single one, even snagged one with his foot as it nearly fell. "Wow," Iris breathed. Crest appeared behind them, holding a prototype. Aikido looked down at his hand, murmuring, "I've finally got the hang of it." Controlling his Magitech body now felt like playing a game with a custom controller. It had taken years, but his precision was sharper than ever. Iris checked the basket. Not a single egg was broken. "How do I look?" Aikido asked Crest. Wasn't he ready for the real limbs now? Aikido asked. Crest nodded. "It's time." They entered the workshop. On the table sat a long box holding a finished prosthetic leg. Crest opened it, revealing a gleaming, custom-built Magitech limb. Aikido's eyes went wide. "You had these done this whole time? And you didn't tell me?" "I needed to see how serious you were," Crest said simply. "What's that supposed to mean?" Aikido demanded, but Crest didn't answer. Instead, he told Iris to fit the limbs. When the pieces locked into place, Aikido stared at them in awe. "This is insane. It feels real. It feels better than real." He threw a punch, splintering a wooden beam. The power and responsiveness stunned him. Crest smirked. "Of course it's good. I built it." Then he turned to Iris. "You'll handle the fine-tuning." "Wah me," she stammered. "No way. Who knows him better than you?" Crest teased. She shot back, red-faced. "That's not what this looks like." From the back, Aikido flexed his new fingers. "For long years, and I finally have my fangs again. Let them enjoy peace while they can. They'll regret everything soon enough." Months passed. Aikido and Iris walked through the town with their arms full of supplies. "It's been a while since we did this," Aikido said. "You've been too busy training and tuning your limbs," Iris replied. Back home, Crest lay in bed coughing. Seeing him, Aikido frowned. Crest almost never got sick. Crest asked him to handle a delivery. Iris smiled. "We're not kids anymore. We can manage." In the market, Iris caught a smell from a food stall. "That smells amazing. Let's check it out." "That's for kids," Aikido said, but she'd already spotted something else, a statue. He turned to look. The armor, the gear, it was him. "Why is there a statue of me?" A man nearby chuckled. "You've never heard of the Heroism Church?" "The Heroism Church," Aikido echoed. The man explained it was a group founded by those Aikido had saved, worshipping him like a god. They had branches across all 5 nations. Aikido went still. The man went on. "Everyone once stood under you to defeat the demon lord. But now the nations are at war again. People wonder why you abandoned them. Monsters still attack, and the borderlands are falling apart." Aikido grabbed Iris's arm. "Let's go." She looked back a little sad. As they walked, Aikido thought bitterly for years. "Have I just been hiding here?" He muttered aloud. "Did they really do all that?" A rustle in the bushes caught his ear. He saw movement. "Monsters? This close to town?" "I don't like this," Iris whispered, stepping behind him. "Hold on," he said, lifting her onto his back. He sprinted toward home, but the monsters reached the workshop first. "The workshop!" Iris gasped. "Crest," Aikido hissed. Rage flared. He launched himself into the air, shouting for Iris to stay back, and tore through the monsters with brutal precision. They rushed inside, calling for Crest, but stopped cold at what they saw. Aikido's eyes went dark. "I should have known. It's always these kinds of people, always taking everything from me." Later, Iris sat in the bath, water cascading over her head, whispering for her master not to leave her behind. Aikido stood at Crest's grave, eyes closed. He remembered the last conversation. Shouldn't we at least call a doctor? He'd asked back then. Crest had only coughed and said he knew when death was close. The wounds were too severe. Aikido had mentioned Iris, saying she'd rushed out for medicine in a panic. Crest had called her a stupid apprentice for running off at a time like that. Through clenched teeth, Aikido had asked, "Why you? Why now? Is this my fault?" Crest had denied it, blaming the Five Nations for ignoring the monster threat. If they'd acted, this never would have happened. Then Crest had said he needed to tell Aikido something. Thinking it was about Iris, Aikido promised to take care of her. "It's not just her," Crest had rasped. "When you showed up here, I didn't ask about your past. But I saw it in your eyes, the look of someone burning for revenge. That's why I hesitated. I didn't want to hand that kind of power to a man who'd start another war." Aikido had laughed softly, realizing why Crest had tested him so much. "But once I saw you and Iris working together," Crest said, "I knew you'd finish what I started." Aikido had nodded. "This gear, we built it together." Crest's final words had been a plea. "Protect that idiot apprentice." Then he passed.